Oh, right, guys. Today we are gonna be reacting to how the German government works. Very interesting scene. I got a small snippet of how the government works. It's very complicated, guys. It's very similar to the United States government, but very complicated, guys. So I would like to just react to this. Let's see what's going on here, guys.
It's a country in central Western Europe that's about the size of the US state of Montana, or slightly smaller than Japan. If you're still having any trouble finding it, it's right next to the town of Słubice, Poland. Germany's federal government meets in the capital and largest city of Berlin. So aside from tourists taking selfies at Checkpoint Charlie and a bunch of people ordering doner kebabs constantly, what exactly goes on here in Berlin?
That's it. It's good, huh? That was not bad.
So yeah, this is Germany, also known as the Federal Republic of Germany, or Bundesrepublik Deutschland. Germany's government is best described as a federal parliamentary representative democratic republic. For those of you who aren't fluent in political...
Wow, let me just read that one more time. The Federal Parliamentary Representative Democratic Republic. Just a republic.
Republic. For those of you who aren't fluent in political scientistese, those terms just mean that Germany's government is a federation of different states under a non-monarchical government, which has different people as the head of state and head of government, I'll explain the difference with that later, and that there's a layer of politicians between the voters and the legislation. Germany is also divided into 16 states, whose German names, in alphabetical order of their English names, are Baden-Württemberg, Bayern, Berlin, Brandenburg, Bremen, Hamburg, Hessen, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Niedersachsen, Nordrhein-Westfalen, Saarland, Sachsen, Sachsen-Anhalt, Schleswig-Holstein, and Thüringen. Some of these states might have familiar names from European history, be it from various treaties or dogs, as many of them are direct descendants of the kingdoms that once ruled these lands. Although nowadays the main purpose of the states is to manage local affairs that the federal government can't, and probably shouldn't, be bothered with. These include things like schools, law enforcement, healthcare, und so weiter. States are often further divided into Regierungsbezirke, or governmental districts, and Kreise, or districts of various types.
Wow.
All responsible for various tasks even more local than what the state can provide for. Now, this is a video about how the German national government works, so if you're more interested in how local government works in Germany, I would highly recommend this video from
It's not funny because I said in the last video that I wanted to learn more about the German government. Huh.
Okay, back to the federal government. Just how does that work? Well, first, there are two major legislative bodies, the Bundestag and the Bundesrat. The Bundestag meets in the famous Reichstag building and is the German parliament, while the Bundesrat meets in the Prussian House of Lords, or the Preußisches Herrenhaus, and represents the state governments. If you already know a bit about the US government, think of the Bundestag like the House of Representatives, and the Bundesrat as kind of a bit more like the Senate. The German government also essentially has two leaders. The president is the head of state, which means he, currently Frank-Walter Steinmeier, presides over representational matters and doesn't really have as much powers despite technically being the most important person in the German government. They really just preside over legislation.
So why being a president?
And make sure nothing goes wrong.
Okay.
The second most is the president of the Bundestag, or Bundestagspräsident, currently Wolfgang Schäuble, who is basically in charge of managing the Bundestag and making sure everything's in order, and is basically Germany's equivalent of the speaker. Chancellor, however,
I was gonna say he's basically the speaker.
Or Bundeskanzlerin, currently the world-famous Angela Merkel, is the head of government, which means she appoints the federal cabinet and basically runs the country, in a sense. Technically, the Chancellor is officially only ranked third in the German government, but if you don't know much about German politics, there's a reason you probably still heard of Angela Merkel. Okay, now for the election.
Yo, so the Chancellor basically is the president, right? The Chancellor is the president. The president doesn't really mean anything, but Chancellor is basically the president.
Which are a little bit more complicated. Not really to vote in, but more if you're the person organizing the new government. Every 5 years, a federal election is run, and it is during this time that voters vote for new representatives in the Bundestag. Obviously, they also kind of technically vote for the Bundesrat, but we're just going to focus on the Bundestag for now because it's easier and more important. The ballot they are sent essentially comes in two parts. one for the person the voter wants representing their constituency, and another for which party the voter wants in power. You don't have to vote correspondingly either. If you're a fan of the SPD but like the FDP candidate more, you can vote both ways. This means that you're essentially electing two halves of the 598 seats, 299 of which go to local candidates, with the other 299 going to party representatives so that a political party can get a more proportional amount of seats for their votes. Although this does mean that the Bundestag may or may not go over the seat number of 598, and so additional overhangs.
This shit is confusing. Wow, damn, man. I was about to just start counting, but okay. Damn.
Seats are often also given to balance this out. Overhang seats and their cousins leveling seats, however, are a no so complicated situation that's probably best left for another time. Just know that there are additional seats given depending on how the vote goes for a particular party. Now, you might have noticed that there are more than two main political parties in Germany. In fact, there are currently 6 parties with seats in the Bundestag, which, in decreasing order of said seats, are the CDU-CSU, technically 2 parties in a kind of union, but still, the SPD, AfD, FDP, the Left, and the Greens.
The Left.
These aren't exactly fringe
link,
parties.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Link, left. Right? No. The link, the left. Yo, you know what's crazy? This is very original. The Left. That's it. I love it. I love it. Very
either, especially
practical.
Since a party needs at least 5% of the popular vote to get a seat in government. This means that a singular party rarely gets a majority in government, and so they often need to pair up with another party to get legislation passed. This is something known as a coalition, and the current government coalition is made up of the CDU-CSU and the SPD, with the other 4 parties forming what is known as the opposition. So to wrap everything up, here's a diagram of how the German government interacts with itself. It's a little bit confusing at first, but so are most.
Yeah. So I guess you have to really see what's going on here, right? So state legislator, go to the appointed members, federal diet. I guess that's more like you can fire or just take control of the federal government basically and do whatever the hell you want with it. Cabinet, okay. Golly, man, this is so. What in the hell? I don't know, man.
Most government diagrams to the unfamiliar observer. So let's start with the normal German voter, who is a German citizen over the age of 18 who has lived at least 3 straight months in Germany in the last 25 years up to the election. This only applies if you've been living outside of Germany. So in this diagram, yellow boxes represent the legislative branch, blue boxes represent the executive branch, and gray boxes the judicial branch.
Okay.
Green arrows mean that one body elects and/or appoints another, blue arrows that one body sends members to another, red arrows that one formally appoints and/or has veto power over another, and 3 arrows is a German YouTube channel that's completely unrelated to this. So starting with a normal voter, they elect their state legislature and the federal diet. The state legislature, in turn, appoints the state constitutional court, the minister-president, and the appointed members of the federal convention. The minister-president appoints the state cabinet, and those two send members to the federal council, which works with the federal diet to appoint the federal constitutional court and enact legislation. The federal diet, meanwhile, also sends members to the federal convention, which elects the president. The president has veto power over the same legislation we just breezed over, but is also tasked with formally appointing the chancellor, who—
Yo, this is one of those. Yeah, you have to watch this stuff like a million times to understand it. Or you have to be part of the system to really understand what the hell is going on. You know, this is confusing as hell, man. It's because the language that he's using, I'm trying to assimilate what's going on here with what we use in the United States, and by doing that, I think I'm confusing myself.
The federal diet also elects, and the president has veto power over the federal cabinet that the chancellor then appoints.
Oh, so this is very interesting. So he can say, like, Chancellor, I know your intentions, but no, don't put that person there. Don't do this. Don't do that. But why the Chancellor was more famous than the president? I didn't know that Germany has a president. I didn't know that. I thought they only had a chancellor, but not a president. Chancellor, not a president, huh?
Hey, that actually wasn't too bad, was it? The German government is a big and powerful player on the world stage. Germany may be the size of Montana and have a population smaller than that of Vietnam, but Germany also has the fourth largest economy in the world,
Wow.
which in turn makes it arguably one of the leaders of the European Union as a whole. So it's kind of important that they get this whole thing right. Thank you as always for watching. If you weren't familiar with the German government beforehand, please let me know if this video helped at all. And if you already were, please
it did help. It did help a little bit, but it is kind of confusing. Ain't gonna lie. Ain't gonna lie. This is again. You have to watch it a couple times, and also you have to see it in action to understand it. You only did this to flex your German pronouncing abilities, didn't you? The ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a rarity, an American who is able to pronounce German words. No, we're getting there. We're getting there. Just take a little bit of time, but we're getting there. It's quite interesting as a European how you need to explain what a coalition is to your mostly American audience. America really works in odd ways compared to Europe, even Europe's republics, because it's the same way. If you see our system, you're probably going to say the same thing. You said it, odd ways. So it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. That's what it is. Outside of that, we don't. I don't know. And no, the federal election is every 4 years. Oh, okay. We have one of these comments here. Not every 5. The elections, which are every 5 years, are the state election. Oh, see, in the United States, each state, they have their different election dates. They have everything is so different, very different. But in this case, see, it's all in one day. That's very interesting as well. See, so that's something that I had to check on. I had to check. Yeah, he made an error there. Plus, not every state votes every 5 years. Some vote every 5 years, so on. There we go. So there's another one. Yeah. Oh, and the more that I read, the more confusing it is. No, he's right. After this electoral period, from the next election onwards, there will only be federal election every 5th year. Ooh. Listen, hey, I don't want to create anything in my comment section, but if you want to guys have it, is it every 5 or every 4? It's every 5 or every 4. You guys have to let me know in the comment section below. Now I'm confused. Every 5 years or every 4 years? Interesting stuff. But let me know what you guys say in the comment section below. I would love to hear you guys' opinion. In the meantime, guys, I will see you in the next one. I'm out.